Mary's, Nairobi School, Rift Valley Academy?
Yeah, actually, in my primary school days, I was more of a hockey player, hockey and soccer. Yeah, I was not exposed to rugby at all. And when I went to Alliance High School, is when I now got exposed to rugby. And actually, I used to play soccer. In fact, the name Tank came from soccer, not even rugby, because when I got to first form, I managed to play for the first 11 soccer team at the age of 13, which was quite an achievement those days. Yeah, so now after that is when my then captain, Mesha Kidenda, came and then made me the captain of the baby calls. You know, we had this baby calls team, which was basically Form 1 and Form 2. Yeah, and from there is when I learned the game. And
quite an interesting one, that you come from a hockey background in Kisumu. You go to a school with such a hockey heritage, with a great hockey heritage, Alliance High School.
Yeah.
You didn't pick it up? What happened?
No, I mean, it was possible to play all three. I played hockey, I played rugby, and I played soccer. Yeah, because they were played in different terms. Hockey was in first term, rugby was in second term, and soccer was in third term. So it was possible to play all three.
The story is for you, I think, for you as a player, looking back at the history. Is that when you went to play at in the John Andrews Trophy, and you started and Alliance shocked the established names, RVA, Nana, I mean all that. What was that moment?
That actually was one of the moments I can never forget, because I remember that Saturday morning, our then coach, Jack Coyne. Jack Coyne was our coach. He was a non-dis player, and he actually dropped us at Lenana School and just left us there, because it was obvious that we were not going to get anywhere. So I was left in charge of the team, and amazingly, we started off and beat, I think it was Nairobi School and Starehe. And it was that system of 3 or 4 pools, and you had to top your pool to get to the semi-finals.
Yes.
Yeah. So we topped our pool, and now we were going to meet Lenana, who were actually the hosts and the defending champions. And I don't think they had ever lost in Lenana. So what was amazing is that the spectators did not even come to watch our game. They went to watch RVA, the other semi-final, because it was a foregone conclusion that that Lenana was going to beat us. And when they came back, the score was 18-0, by the way. We scored 18 against Lenana.
And those were the days when a try was 4 points.
A try was 4 points, and then when you convert, it's 6. So we scored 3 tries, and I converted the 3 tries.
The football boots again.
Yeah. I tell you, it was unbelievable. The Lenana guys could not just believe it. Yeah, and these were renowned players like Dan Kimoro, David Madara, James Mushiri. They were tough players. Yeah. So all I told the players is there's no point of coming this far, beating Lenana, and then in the final we lose it. Yeah, and it was amazing. We beat RVA 26-4 in the final.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 26-4. Yeah.
So that, and at that point in time, you say your former your coach was a non-dis player. You're still in high school, and non-dis come up and drop a message and say, "Can we have Michael playing for us?"
Yeah, actually, it was my coach, Jack Coyne. Jack Coyne would get permission for me, drive me over to Parklands on a Wednesday for training. Yeah, and then I started off by playing for the non-dis second team. At that time, non-dis, it was difficult to break through to the first team.
Yeah.
Yes, there were great players there like Tom Olahead, George Roy, Peter Evans, Mike Evans himself, who was our captain, my coach, Jack Coyne, who was a prop. It was so difficult to break into the first team, and I was like 18 years old. Yeah, so I started off by playing for the second team. But that year in the Kenya Cup final, it was split. Teams would be split into two sides. So Nondi's Lions and Nondi Tigers got into the final. And I managed to get a slot and play for Nondi's Tigers. I was a sub, but they brought me in to play for Nondi's Tigers in the 1979 Kenya Cup final. So I actually managed to play in the final of Kenya Cup at the age of 18.
Picking up coaching, first of all, as a trainer with Kenya, coaching at Mwamba, coaching at Moi University, you're more of an education person. So somehow you always ended up at universities, KU, being with Black Blood twice, and with KCB before I touch on the national teams. What has been your coaching journey? How have you seen it change over the years?
Yeah, I started off by coaching Mwamba. When I stopped playing for Mwamba, I became coach player, and I think we were doing it with the late Jimmy Owino, one of my friends and mentors. So that was my introduction to coaching. And at that time we didn't have coaching courses, so it was like you go in and learn on the job. Yeah, but when I now went to Moi University, that was now my first experience at coaching. And I went there and found this team called the Arsonists.
University decides the names. Some time back, there's a basketball team called Terrorists, and another one called Pirates.
I tell you, I don't know how they decided on the name Arsonists. I didn't like it very much, but the students decided we are the Arsonists. So I moved on with them as the coach of the Arsonists. And I found a group of young, enthusiastic players. Most of them were really from Queens. They had a background with Queens, and I found a group of very passionate players who just needed somebody to give them direction. And that was really my first experience at coaching. Yeah, when I got we actually managed to get to the semi-finals of the Eric Shirley Shield.
Yeah, coaching KCB here in '95, then going back to KCB and then winning the Kenya Cup 3 times back to back. And the story then was the Kenya Cup has left Ngong Road.
Yes. That to me now is where my coaching was transformed, because I was invited. I coached KCB briefly in '95, but at that time really we didn't agree on so many things, so I left. But in 2002, the then coach Makandere, who was now chairman of KCB, approached me. And his words were, look, can you come and help us? We have run out of ideas. KCB was basically a second string side, of just boys who just were playing for fun. Yeah, so I took up the challenge. They gave me a salary which I don't even want to mention because, but I took up the challenge. And actually in 2002, we got to the Kenya Cup final.
Yeah.
Yes, I went into KCB. We lost the first 3 games, but we didn't lose any game after that. And we actually got to the Kenya Cup final against Impala. Yeah, but Impala was such a well-drilled side at that time.
Well, with the late Benja, Steve Obondi.
Yes, the likes, Oscar Osil and all that.
Bilo Dongo.
Yeah, so Impala was really something. But we got to the final in 2002, and that is what gave us the hope and that we can actually make it. See? Yeah, and it took us just another 2 years in 2004, and we had our first trophy, the Enterprise Cup, in 2004. That is what propelled us now.
And actually, your Winners' Trophy is one of those many trophies that's all around
here. The Enterprise Cup, the first trophy in 2004. And that is what now made the players believe in themselves. And 2005, 2006, 2007 was just amazing.
Well, and before joining KCB, you had coached Kenya Sevens 98 to 2000.
Yes.
And you were actually one of the amongst the players who had been picked to play for Kenya Sevens when they started doing, getting into the Sevens series. What is it that you found in 98, 99, 2000 that had changed over about 15, 16 years?
Also another amazing story, because I was appointed Kenya Sevens coach in 98. Remember, There were no coaching courses. There were no, nothing to fall back on. So it was a very challenging duty. And I never even had a technical bench. It was you as the head coach. There was a team manager and there was a team doctor, and that was it. So and suddenly we got this opportunity to go to Middlesex Sevens, the first time that we ever went to Twickenham to play in Twickenham with those players. So it was more of just getting the players together and doing whatever we could do at that time. Yeah, but you see, at the end of the day, we were getting exposed to those levels. We got to Middlesex Sevens and we actually got a bronze medal, and we won 1 million shillings. It was the first time that there was ever prize money.
You're coaching the Kenya Simbas 2007 to 2012. What was that for you?
That to me was a journey that led me through a lot of experiences. The first assignment that we got was going to play in Uganda. I inherited a team that was demotivated. There had been no coach for some time. I just inherited a team that was, clueless. I even didn't have players. And suddenly I was told to go on assignment for the Elgon Cup to play a very well-drilled Ugandan side. And I remember losing, I think we lost by 18 points.
Yes, so it was a huge loss.
It was a huge loss.
We still remember the game.
Yes,
and I think you took a lot of stick for that.
And in the return leg now, I had to win the Elgon Cup. So I came in and, of course, reorganized the squad. Yeah, I called in the Injeras, I called in Humphrey, I called in Sudi. I remember I called in a lot of the Sevens players at that time just to beef up the squad. I'm not sure whether Lavin was also in. I think I called him in and talked to the players. And from the beginning of the game, we were 18-0 down because we were chasing 18 points.
Yes.
And amazingly, we won by 1 point. We got 19 points against them, margin of 19. So winning that Elgon Cup for the first time for me again and chasing 19 points was really amazing, and the players never let me down. And from there on, of course, remember I did 5 Elgon Cups in a row.
Yes.
Yeah. And we also went to Zimbabwe in 2010 and we beat Zimbabwe there for the first time in history. So there were a lot of amazing experiences also with the Kenya Simbas.
Doing that work, you've worked as a rugby services manager, and so it's all about development. But this is where now you come in as somebody different. You went into where you teach the University of Nairobi as Mr. Otieno, and a couple of years back you are now Dr. Michael Tanko Otieno. And let me just read your PhD in full in education: the influence of the socio-cultural environment on talent identification for rugby players in rugby clubs in Kenya. So there you are, and you've done a lot of things, and let me just pick up some of the conclusions that you simply say this. There is familiar influence on talent identification is not there. Pure influence is significant. Coaches, trying to identify talent for rugby players in rugby clubs is not significant. And this is where the Kenya Secondary School Sports Association are going to get a shock. Secondary school rugby playing experience has no significant influence on talent identification for rugby players in rugby clubs in Kenya. Just give us some thoughts about this, because you've been a coach, you've been there in development, real at the union, and now here is an academic paper on that.
Talent identification has always been my passion, and it's still my passion. And I still believe that we are not doing it in the right way in this country in terms of identifying talent. But I was looking at merely, there are a lot of factors that influence. I took the socio-cultural factors because I wanted to find out does the influence of family, the issue of family, siblings and all that. Does it influence people to go and play rugby? The issue of peers and friends, does it influence? Does it have an influence on somebody to go and play rugby? The issue of coaches, does a player go to a club because of the influence of a coach? Yes. The infrastructure, does a player go there because of infrastructure? Influence of secondary schools, does it do? You see, like you find my KCB team, the majority of them were from St. Mary's Yala when we were winning the Kenya Cup. So is that a factor? Is that a factor? But you see, with academic research, when you take a sample and you have to do a statistical analysis, then you can find there is influence, but the influence is not significant. See? Yeah, and that's why all those factors, it is only the peer influence that was found to be significant in terms of influencing talent identification. But you can see, we always conclude in an academic paper that maybe more research needs to be done in this area, because remember, we are talking about taking a sample and making a decision about a population.
All right.
Yeah.
One of the recommendations that you actually made in your paper was, let's now bring the real development pathway that existing at the moment, or if we were to call it that, is school games. How much more should, say, the Kenya Rugby Union or even the Kenya Volleyball Federation, Football Kenya Federation, Kenya Basketball Federation do to work with this, with the school games organizers, such that the development pathway exists?
You see, most of our coaches in most of our sports go to the secondary school games to identify talent there and to identify players. And why I don't agree with this is that talent identification should start at a lower level. We need to start identifying these players from the age of 6, even the age of 4. And that is when you start nurturing and developing that talent, because at that particular time, the child mentally has still not got so many things going on in the mental perspective. The child is merely having fun and playing. And that is the time when you can really nurture and develop talent and lead this kid into getting the useful energy into what the kid really likes. So we should start our talent identification at that level, at the primary school level, and set up our own structures. And then you see, once you develop, you must develop a pathway that is going to lead this child into playing for a club, into playing for the junior national team, into playing for senior national team, and probably going into the professional setup to earn some good money.
So ideally what we see, so if Gor coach Thika United, I know Thika United had that thing at one point, so basically going to the school games was playing old scouting to fill a gap in the club.
Yeah, and to get players who have already developed some bad habits, skill, social habits that are now difficult to change, have developed the wrong techniques in executing a skill. You get them when they've already developed. For me, I call it bad habits and bad techniques, and then you move them into the elite rugby with And that's why you find even right now, even in our Kenya Sevens team, wishing them luck tomorrow. They're in Hong Kong, but you can find we still have players who can hardly pass.
Oh, by the way, you find the coach saying, "I need to get back to basics."
Precisely.
I've had Mike Friday say that. I've had Damian McGrath say that.
Damian, we are always in touch with him, and he's always saying, "Why do we have to do these things at this level?"
Wow, I think Innocent Timmy also said that once.
Same thing.
That something needs to be done. As we conclude, there are two plaques I want you to pick: the Mzalendo plaques from the Kenya Rugby Union, and you could tell us about each one of them, the honors that you've been given.
Yeah, this one was introduced by the union, by the Rugby Union, I believe in the early 90s. Yeah, and every year they would pick out somebody and give them this. I don't know what criteria they used, but I think I was picked up for one of them. Yeah, and awarded this, and I think it is something that I'm very proud of.
We could lift it up, so
yeah. I wish the union had continued with this kind of program. Yeah, but they stopped. I don't know why. And then this other one was the one that we were awarded in, was it in 2015?
It's 2015.
2015.
When Kenya played Spain.
Yeah, when Kenya played Spain, and a number of us were called at the Union. Basically, the fundamental was the team that played for Kenya
against Zimbabwe.
Against Zimbabwe in 1985 and also 1980. Yeah, so a number of us, a lot of them my mentors, came back and we were all given this award. So it has a lot of meaning for me, and I think this kind of thing should be continued.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Tank Otieno, rugby coach and scholar. Well, you know, it's been a pleasure speaking to Dr. Michael Tank Otieno. Many of the people around, you know, Kenya, they know him as a coach in the sport of rugby, but also he teaches at the University of Nairobi, and he has done a doctoral thesis, and this is all about the environment, the social cultural aspects of environment on talent identification for rugby players in rugby clubs in Kenya. You can basically say on the pitch, off the pitch, in the classroom, he's a rugby man through and through. It's been a pleasure speaking to Dr. Michael Tank Otieno. My name is Daniel Wahome, and thank you for watching.
It is Kieran Trippier. It is delicious! Glorious, glorious England goal! Picture perfect! There is not a better strike than that. Rakitic for Vasilko. Aimed in beyond Mandzukic and fired home by Perisic! Croatia's cravings are satisfied, at least for now. And the semi-final is back where it began. Walker got there. So though did Perisic. Mandzukic! Croatia hit the front. Mario Mandzukic pounced. And England are hurt. And Croatia, for the first time ever, will play in a World Cup final.